Hi everyone, and welcome to another video about economics. In today's video, we're going to be looking at some of the key terms and concepts from the first part of your Introduction to Economics course. Now, I'm actually going to be having a series of these review videos, and these are actually going to be applicable to both micro and macroeconomics as well, particularly for midterm review study and final exam review study help. In fact, you'll find that most of the time, terms and concepts from earlier units in your principles of micro and macro text are going to overlap quite a bit. And that same material is what is going to make up your Introduction to Economics courses. To get started here, I have a list of some of those key terms and concepts from generally what you'll find in Unit 1 and Unit 2 of your economics coursework. And so I want to get started with scarcity. And this might be actually the most important term for you to know as an economics student. This is going to occur when wants are limitless and resources are limited. We can think of resources or commodities themselves as being scarce or not scarce. Now, generally, you are going to find that almost everything is scarce, if not everything. What we call goods or resources or commodities that are not scarce is a free good. And a free good is, for the most part, theoretical, and you'll be hard-pressed to find any real examples of a free good. Now, in the past, we have thought of air or water as being examples of free goods, examples of resources that are not scarce. But we now understand that there is a limit to clean air or clean water, and by definition, that limit makes it less than the unlimited or the limitless wants and demands the humans making up an economy. So it's important that you conceptually understand this. No matter how much of a resource there is, it is still going to be considered scarce. And because of that, scarcity is a permanent fixture or phenomenon that impacts an economy and will impact the decisions that consumers and producers will make within that economy. So with that said, in economics, we are attempting to apply the scientific method to understand human action under the constraint of scarcity. So in simple terms, scarcity is the fundamental problem of economics. Now, I mentioned in my definition of economics that economists are trying to understand human action. Well, consumers are going to make up a group of those humans or economic agents that economists are trying to understand. Consumers are the individuals who purchase goods or services. I'm a consumer, you're a consumer, all of us are consumers. And most of us are going to be consumers on a daily basis. So for example, today I went to Starbucks to buy a cup of coffee. That would be an example of me being a consumer and purchasing a good or a cup of coffee. Now, in my example, Starbucks is going to be the producer of that coffee. So a producer is an individual or firm who creates or provides goods or services. Now, the producer is going to manage or utilize its factors of production in a way that best meets the demands of the consumers, while also accounting for that factor or the element of scarcity. Now, the three classical inputs or resources that are needed to produce goods and services are going to be land, labor, and capital. Now, in modern day economics, we also have a fourth factor, which is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is really going to just come down to the capacity or the ability of that individual or firm to best utilize those three aforementioned factors in a way that will provide or bring profits to their firm as opposed to losses. Now, I understand that it is not always the case for firms or individuals to be successful. And because of that, if a firm is unable to make profits and it instead suffers losses and is unable to account for those losses, that firm is going to end up having to shut down, right? A market is just the group of producers and consumers of a good or a service. So it's important that you understand that there are multiple markets that make up an economy. In microeconomics, we are looking at the individual markets themselves, whereas in macro, we're looking at an aggregation of all of those markets. Because of scarcity, consumers, producers, and really any individual or agent in an economy is going to have to make decisions. And when we make decisions, we are sacrificing or giving up the value that we could have gained from one action in favor of taking another action. So when we think about consumers or producers, a producer will have to determine how best to use its factors of production, and it will need to identify or determine how many goods to produce or which goods to produce. And that decision is going to have an opportunity cost, because the opportunity cost of that producer's decision is going to be derived from the value that it could have gained from taking that best action or best decision instead of the action that it ultimately took. Now, consumers, it's going to come down to how they choose which goods or services to purchase. If you choose one good over another good, so let's say good A or good B, the value of good B is going to be foregone because the consumer chose to purchase good A. Now, opportunity cost does not just apply to consumers and producers in the sense of a business transaction. You sitting home right now watching this video are making a decision, and that decision comes with an opportunity cost. You could have been doing a number of other things besides watching this video. Each of those things comes with a varying degree of value. In order to find the opportunity cost of your decision to watch this video, we would need to find the second best option or action, or the best alternative action to watching this video, and then determine the value that you would have gained from partaking in that activity. And that would be your opportunity cost. So if the best or most favored option next to watching this video would be you going out with your friends, then the value of going out with your friends would be the opportunity cost of watching this video. Next we have model. Now in economics we use simplified representations of the real world, and it's important that you understand why that is. Well, it's simply because the real world itself is too complicated. There are too many variables, too many details, too many intricacies to account for. Because of that, we use assumptions. Now, when we apply assumptions to our models, we do so in a way that does not jeopardize the predictive capability or the predictive integrity of those models. The production possibilities curve is an example of a model that we cover early on in our economics coursework. And this model helps us to understand the maximum amount of goods an economy can produce. Now, I have another video where I dive a little bit deeper into the Russian possibilities frontier, and I will include a link to that video below. We use models for both macro and microeconomics, and some models are unique to both branches. Some models have some applicability with both branches. In macroeconomics, we are studying the economy as a whole. So this is where you will read about terms such as inflation, consumer price index, CPI, GDP, GNP, unemployment, aggregate demand, aggregate supply, and so on. In microeconomics, we are learning about the study of the behavior of households and firms. So we're learning about market structures, budget constraints, marginal utility, marginal benefit, marginal cost, average total cost, average variable cost. These are all going to be terms that we're going to be learning in micro, or that you have already learned in your micro course. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and stay tuned for the second part of this review series.